everyone, and welcome to my weekly/monthly wrap-up. I usually do weekly wrap-ups when I'm not on vacation, when I'm actually consistent with posting, because I do read enough within 1 week. But this is going to be the wrap-up for between August 17th till September 16th, so essentially a month. I was on vacation for about 3 weeks, as you already know, and even though I kind of planned to read a lot during vacation, it did not really happen because my vacation was packed with meeting people, going to places, doing stuff as you do. So I know that I'm yet to post my Vienna vlog. I really want to do that. I'm not sure when it's gonna happen because I honestly was so proud of myself for not missing last Wednesday when I was talking about I Said Rad readathon that I'm going to talk about later in another video. And I was so proud of myself. I did post a video last Wednesday, but then came Sunday, I wasn't feeling well and I had to miss the day, and it's killing me whenever I miss a day and then I cannot find motivation to start filming again, which is silly. And now I'm filming at 6 p.m. on Wednesday when I'm supposed to be already uploading the video, or it should have been uploaded in the morning. So I'm just rambling, I'm sorry. Anyway, this is going to be the wrap-up, like I said, between August 17th and September 16th, and I left on vacation on August 19th, and right before going on vacation I attempted to participate in Booktubeathon readathon, and the first book that I read was actually initially part of my TBR for that readathon, but I did not complete any of the challenges. I only completed that one, I believe, or rather finished that play. Anyway, the first book that I read in this month was The Crucible by Arthur Miller. This is the play which is based on a famous story of Salem witch's hunt, which happened in Massachusetts, in Salem, and everyone knows pretty much what is this story about, but I was initially drawn to this play because I saw the live broadcast, or rather the recorded broadcast of this play with quite stellar cast. It had Richard Armitage in it, and I was just so drawn to the story of this absolutely insane trial and how stupid those men were and how smart those girls were. It just like, it was such an incredible play to watch. I still need to write the review of that play. I don't think I have it on my blog yet, but I'm really behind on all of the reviews. It's just insane. I have so many and I can barely keep up. So I did love that play. I watched it and I immediately started reading it, and it was just so good. It blew my mind. There are a lot of notes from Arthur Miller himself. He puts like notes into the text itself, given the perspective on what was happening, and he did draw interesting parallels with communism, which I'm obviously, since the play was written back in the day, I cannot really comment on that, but I did like the play a lot. It's just mind-blowing how crazy the society can go and how sometimes unreasonable people are, because there was no real evidence against anyone and still those trials happened and people were hanged for something that they did not commit. So I love that play. I gave it, I believe, 4 stars or 4.5 stars, so definitely check this one out if you haven't for some reason. And if I get, or rather when I get my review online on my blog, I will provide the link down below as well. Next, I read volume number 7 of What Did You Eat Yesterday? This is manga series, and I'm really enjoying the series. Pretty much I gave 4 stars to every single volume except for, I believe, 1. And you know what? This is a very lovely story, but it makes me so damn hungry. I love the story. This is a story about 2 gay guys in Japan who live together. One of them is a lawyer and he really loves to cook in his spare time. So basically most of the manga is just slice of life, just their conversations, making dinner, making food, and just some other stuff that happens in the background. Love the story. It's very casual, very slice of life, very, you know, sweet, and it's just, I really enjoyed it in spite of some problems that I still have with the narration, but I'm really enjoying it, and that was volume number 7. I still have at least 3 or 4 volumes to read, and I don't really want it to end because it's just so casual and so easy. And yeah, I gave this volume 4 stars. Next, I read a graphic novel called Ghostopolis, and that was a very cute graphic novel. I'm not sure whether it was middle grade or young adult, probably more middle grade. This is a story about a boy who is kind of pulled into a ghost world. So in this story, the ghost world does exist, and it's called Ghostopolis. This is where all the ghosts are being sent to, so that they kind of like don't like haunt the living. I felt that the story was very interesting. I like the idea of a Ghostopolis where like there are ghosts and dead people. This is where dead people go to. I did find that this story was sometimes a bit all over the place, but the graphic itself was very nice. It was bright, you know, kind of not really heavy. There was a detective character who was following all of those ghosts and trying to get rid of them, and there was just a bit of, you know, not exactly mystery, but that detective aspect that I really like. And this boy, the main protagonist, he gets into the Ghostopolis by mistake because the detective was following one of the ghosts, and that ghost kind of like touches the boy accidentally while it's being sent into Ghostopolis. Oh my god, it's so hard to say. So yeah, it was kind of cute story, but at the same time, like I said, it was just a bit all over the place. I'm not really sure what was the point of introducing some other characters, but if you want to read something easy and fun about ghosts, definitely check this one out. And I'll provide all the links to all the books that I mentioned down below. And yeah, I got it from Overdrive, and it was fun to read on vacation. Next, I read issue number 6 of Chimera, and this is another graphic novel slash webcomic. It is posted by the author on his website. I'm going to provide a link down below as well, but I got it from Hoopla. And like I said before, I do enjoy this graphic series, graphic novel series or comic series. It does remind me a lot of Saga, not due to the complexity of the plot, but more of the imagination of the world, in the sense that it's both sci-fi and magic at the same time. There are a lot of stuff which is happening, and I love it. However, like I said before, and I have this problem with a lot of graphic novels, whenever I start reading issue by issue, I lose track of the plot very quickly because there's just not so much substance in a comics, you know, like, or graphic novels. So for me, it's much more interesting to read, say, a whole volume with several issues all together, as opposed to reading one issue after another. I'm not going to say anything about the plot, except for this story involves a whole bunch of different characters who are like adventure seekers slash thieves, and something bad happens and they kind of get pulled into the intergalactic slash intergods war. And in this issue, unfortunately, one of the characters whom I really liked dies. Spoiler alert, but I'm really looking forward to reading more of this webcomic. It is very good, and hopefully at some point it will be released as a whole volume, because I would love to read it like all together, because art is really cute and the story is really interesting. Because what I really appreciate in graphic novels is that you have to either have a very well written world when you read a book, otherwise you cannot really imagine it. Especially if it's a sci-fi or fantasy, you have to have a very good descriptions, like very good narration style, to be able to kind of visualize what is happening and how the world looks like. Good thing about comics and graphic novels is that if the artist is able to create, to draw, or whatever, paint the world, it just gets so vivid and so interesting. And I totally can see myself reading this webcomic over and over again, because there are just so many details of the characters. Like, there are different species, there are different, you know, costumes, like cultures, etc. It's really cool. I really enjoy it, and that's why I mentioned Saga, because Saga is very complex when it comes to the not just like the plot, but the world building itself. And I think I'm rambling, and just let's move on. But I gave it 4 stars. Next, I read a graphic novel that I freaking loved, and that was Lighter Than My Shadow by Katie Green. This is the graphic novel which is based, I assume, on a personal experience, because we have the main protagonist by the name Katie, who has always been a picky eater, but at some point she realizes that she actually has an eating disorder. And it's not only just a story about eating disorder, how to treat it, and how she went through like therapy and recovery period, but it's also the story about mental health and how people react and how people deal with it. Not just Katie herself, but her family, how her friends, how she herself perceives her mental health illness and her disorder. And that graphic novel was absolutely amazing. Not only it's hand-drawn, it's so well done. It's mostly gray, black and white, like a gray color scheme, but it's very, very on point. What I love the most about the story, that it is very honest. The reactions of people around Katie when she says, oh, I don't want this, I don't want that, the way her mental process works and how she kind of makes excuses about eating or not eating or binge eating or trying to purge, all of that, and the way that she goes through recovery and therapy, it's all so true and honest. Anyone who has ever faced a mental health issue or an eating disorder or any sort of disorder like that would say that this is a very true story. Everything that is shown in this graphic novel is very realistic, and probably a lot of people will be able to relate to it. Myself, personally, I've never had an eating disorder, but whenever you read something like this and you can see how people around Katie reacted to it, you can tell that it's just so damaging, not only to the person who's experiencing this type of disorder, but it's also very damaging to I would say like society in general, because there is no much awareness. And whenever Katie had some trouble eating, or when she would be doing something or saying like this is not right, and she was trying to seek help and ask her parents for help, and her parents will be basically brushing her off, or rather brushing off her concerns as something which does not really exist. And this is type of mentality that still exists in society, not only Western but pretty much all over the world, and it's obvious that this is a huge problem. I love this graphic novel. It does not shy away from portraying all sides of, like, you know, good, bad, and ugly sides of eating disorder and mental health. There is also trigger warning for abuse, so just please be aware of that. I cannot praise this book enough. Yes, it may not be very unique in a plot, because we have a girl who's struggling with eating disorder and she wants to do art in her life, but also she's not getting a lot of support from her family about that. In some ways, this story is very typical, and probably a lot of people can relate to it, but at the same time, the story is really important. And I really loved the way the character was portrayed, everything that was happening in the story. It just was pulling at my heartstrings so much. Really loved it. I think I gave it 5 stars, or almost 5 stars on Goodreads. I cannot wait to review this book in more detail, because just, yeah, love it. In between that and the very last book that I finished within that one month was another book that I read, and I kind of even regret getting it on Kindle, because it was just like, oh my god, it's just it's even embarrassing to say what I read. That was the most random Kindle book that I purchased, because I thought it would be really about musketeers, and it was, in a way. It's just basically someone took the plot of the 3 Musketeers, and without even trying really hard to invent something new, I mean like a retelling or whatever, just took the plot, cut out all the things that that person deemed unnecessary, put in a lot of scenes with sex, like just like only sex everywhere, and besides just like taking out the whole political subplot, and taken out a lot of stuff. It was just condensed into a very short book, and everything in that book was just about sex. I mean, like, okay, I get it. Like, people are free to write fan fiction the way they want. I have no problems with that. Fan fiction is great. I know some amazing writers in different fandoms who write specifically only fan fiction, not original work, and their writing is superb. This person, on the other hand, just took the plot of the novel that exists, basically copy-pasted. Just because it's, I'm sorry, public domain doesn't mean that it's okay to do that. Because you're selling something which does not belong to you, even if it's public domain. That person just copy-pasted passages, then inserted all of those steamy sex scenes, completely, like, the ending is completely redone, and that book was being sold on Kindle. I swear, I just went because I thought, oh, this is a retelling of The Three Musketeers, a kind of sexy one. Okay, I might as well read it because I'm on vacation. I'm sorry. No, I gave that book 2 stars. Like, the only reason why I did not give this book 1 star was just because those passages that were inserted, not like something that was taken from Dumas himself, but that the passages that were written okay. They were not written like amazingly, but they were written pretty well. However, you cannot, like, I know the novel, like The Three Musketeers, almost by heart. I can tell you which passages were quoted word to word. And there's, like, I don't know a single fan fiction that does that. Like, honestly, I've never read anything that would be a fan fiction or inspired by or whatever that would just have like a whole passages of text copy pasted. Like, this is laziness. I'm sorry. As someone who writes herself and just loves reading, this is the most slap into the face that you can get. I'm sorry, I'm ranting. I'm going to provide the link down below for you to see which book I'm talking about. I hate bashing authors and writers because, like I said, I love writing myself and I love books and I do appreciate language, and I know that writing is incredibly hard, but you cannot copy paste somebody else's work even if it is like public domain. It's not okay. I'm sorry, it's not. 2 stars. I will never mention this book again in my life. I'm sorry. And the last but definitely not least was the book that I got from Entangled Teen for review, and that was Blackbird of the Gallows by Meg Castle. And that is YA paranormal fantasy story. It is a standalone novel, and I have a full review of this book on my blog. I'm going to provide the link down below. But I just want to say I gave that book 3 stars. The book is rather well written for a debut novel, but I had some problems with the plot in the sense that I felt that it was rather flat. This is the story about a girl who meets a boy who moves into the house next to her, and that boy has a very interesting connection with crows. So basically crows just follow him everywhere, and it turns out that he's actually a harbinger of death. So death follows him and his whole family, and some stuff starts to happen in that town. I enjoyed the book. I thought it was a fun book to read while being on vacation. It was just the cover of the book. Oh my god, the cover of this book is stunning. This is probably one of my favorite covers of this year, but unfortunately, like I said, there were some holes in the plot that I did not like. Nevertheless, I'm very curious to see what this author might come up with next, and I will definitely keep an eye on her. I gave this book 3 stars. I still suggest that you check this book out because this is a standalone and this is urban fantasy in the YA genre, which is something that is kind of rare, I believe. I have not read a lot of books that this book might be compared to, say something by Maggie Stiefvater or, I don't know, Leigh Bardugo, but well, rather, I did read the books by Leigh Bardugo. I read one book by Leigh Bardugo, and she has high fantasy world, but I just had a feeling that this book might be compared to something else if you read a lot of YA. For me personally, the plot sounded pretty interesting and rather unique. However, the holes in the plot, I hate when there are holes in the plot. Anyway, please do check out my full review, because I just like, I really like this book, but at the same time I was just let down because it's just, I just expected more. Anyway, this was all I read in that 1 month. Please let me know down below if you read any of the books that I mentioned, and do check out my reviews on my blog. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Bye! I'm so thirsty, oh my god. Of course I'm mispronouncing it. Hello?
Congratulations! You have been selected by Air Canada to receive a $999 credit.
Oh my god, those marketing calls, it's just insane. How do they even get my number? Nobody knows my number. So I got a Fitbit, and apparently if I move my hands too much, it seems like it thinks I'm walking, but I'm not. This is extremely funny. But at the same time, it's really maybe I should take off my Fitbit.